So we are going to be talking about neuromarketing, how that can add value in qualitative research and in healthcare context, because we at AplusA, we are a healthcare-only company. What I'm going to be talking about, first of all, I go through sort of the methodology, what we did, the technology, the company, and then sort of our case study, which consisted of 3 parts. I'm going to talk about 2 of those, and then we'll kind of look at some final thoughts based on our case study experiment. So really the idea was to think sort of the potential of neuromarketing in providing added value, specifically in healthcare context, as for my company. So you'd say, why neuromarketing? It's nothing really innovative anymore. It's been around since late 1990s, early 2000. You know, the first time the term neuromarketing was used was in 2002, when actually an Atlanta-based advertising company started using functional MRI in their market research. So you'd say, oh, it's nothing new, so why are you testing neuromarketing now? We believe at AplusA, actually, neuromarketing has been used much more widely in the consumer research. It hasn't really been used so much in healthcare research, and specifically not with healthcare professionals. So we kind of wanted to see whether that was something that we could sort of do to sort of provide added value to our customers. And also, even within our company, there were lots of people who were saying, you know, the doctors will never want to be wearing the EEG headsets. And so there was quite a bit of reluctance even within the company to see whether that would work out or not. So we decided to really go ahead and give it a try. Okay, so what we did was last November, we interviewed 21 GPs in London. They were all GPs who look after patients with type 2 diabetes. And it was all done in central location. Okay, so really sort of when you talk about neuromarketing, one of the criticisms that neuromarketing faces a lot is kind of pseudo-scientific. It's really all marketing. When you look through all the companies that provide neuromarketing on the internet, there's loads who actually just are marketing-based. They don't really have a lot of science-based. And there's also even companies who only do eye tracking, and they call that neuromarketing. So we really sort of, when we found this partner, BitBrain, they are sort of a Spanish company, and they are sort of really science-based. They are actually a spin-off of the University of Zaragoza. They've started in 2010, and they really all have scientific technical backgrounds. So they are really specialists in neuroscience, decoding of brain, physiological signals, electronics, really all the science stuff rather than the pure marketing stuff which some other companies do. And they have really developed this technology, usance technology, together with the Spanish Ministry of Economy and Competitiveness and also the University of Zaragoza. And they have these 2 fully equipped laboratories so they can actually provide you the analysis of the experiment. And they have about 10 years of experience, have done about over 200 studies with lots of different sort of clients, from small companies to universities to multinationals. So they have got a lot of experience. So we decided to sort of do our experiment with these guys. So this is, you know, the technology. I mentioned that some neuromarketing companies only do eye tracking. They call that neuromarketing. The company we work with, BitBrain, they have the full set. So they have the ring that measures the biometry, so the galvanic skin response, the heart activity, the accelerometer, and then they have the headset. It's a dry electrode EEG, and they also use the eye tracker. I'll be focusing less on the eye tracker because I'm sure most of you are familiar with what eye tracking can do. And then they have also, like I mentioned, sort of the labs to actually analyze the results. So with all this technology, what do you do? So we look at these 3 different parameters. You've got the emotional, cognitive, and behavioral indicators. So the ring, the biosense, that really shows you the emotional activation, which is emotions from positive, negative to positive. It's really how people feel when they sort of see, for instance, an advertisement. You've got the affective balance, and that is oh, sorry, I actually got it wrong. So activation is the arousal from calm to excitement, and the active emotive balance is the emotions from positive to negative. And then you've got the emotional impact that you actually look with the EEG headset, and that's kind of the immediate emotional arousal. So when you first look at an advertisement, how you react to that. Whereas actually that's slightly different than the emotional activation, which is more the changes in psychological state when you expose to stimuli. So that would be, for instance, if you're looking at a TV advertisement, so you know what spots of the TV advertisement do you react most to, sort of what are the most interesting spots. And again, also with the EEG headset, you look at the attention, so that's to what extent do you pay attention to what you're seeing. The engagement, which is really how relevant, how meaningful, how interesting the information is to you, and the memorization, which is the storage in the long-term memory. And then, you know, with the eye tracker, you look at the visual attention, visual heat, so where really your eyes focus on the advertisements. So these are really the three things that you can provide when you have a full set of the neuromarketing technology. Okay, so why would you sort of why would you want to add neuromarketing to your qualitative research? So we all know that in sort of qualitative research, we want to sort of go beyond your system 2, which is the rational, expressed, the normal rational thought. So you want to reach the system 1, and that's where we'd use these enabling projective techniques as well. And this is where you could also support your findings with the neuromarketing, with these cognitive, emotional, and visual attention indicators. And really, that's how you could actually reach beyond the level 2 to level 1. And in our research, we really combined standard qualitative research with the neuromarketing. So what we did was actually sort of, like I said, we had 3 different experiments. So we showed them journal adverts, TV adverts, and some product descriptions. And every time they first did the neuromarketing test with the calibration and the neuromarketing. After that, we showed them quickly again the advertisements, and then we had some self-completion sheets, so we had a simple me map to show how closely they connect with the advertisements, and also a list of positive and negative adjectives to see the emotional connections with the adverts. And then we also asked them, your standard direct questions like sort of, which adverts do you remember, what were the messages conveyed, and so forth. Okay, so like I said, we did 3 different experiments. I'm going to be focusing on the journal and TV advert case study we conducted. So we really had a variety. It was 8 diabetic advertisements, lots of different styles. So we had some with people, some with landscapes, some abstract, some with more text, some with less text. So very, very different. Also different manufacturers, different products, different classes of drugs. And also we had very sort of different sort of approaches, styles, visuals. So it was all really a variety that we showed them. I unfortunately cannot show you the adverts because of the copyright issues. Okay, so when we first look at your traditional qual, so in the journal ads, 2 clear winners. So based on your classic qualitative research, so the emotional connection as measured with the me map, the positive emotional responses as measured by the adjectives, really the compelling messages that were related to diabetes, sort of good messages coming through, and also the recollection of both the advertisement and the brand it was supposed to be advertising. And then if you look at these 2 adverts that were the winners, they were very different. So one showed a landscape with an off-road vehicle, and the other one showed a black man who was interpreted to be a patient by physicians. And all the other ads really received either a sort of quite neutral or even negative response. And with the TV ads, there were 2 of them, also very different. One actually was they're both interpreted as showing patients getting on with their lives. But one actually showed real patients. The other one was more sort of in an imagine kind of a setting. And out of these, if you look at the qual findings, again, one clearly outperformed the other. But let's just then see what happens with neuromarketing. So then these are this is the emotional location map, so it looks at the average activation and the average valence. So if you look at the journal ads first, they are all pretty much clustered together, except for the number 6, which was a slightly different advert, and we kind of came into conclusion that that was really, that advert was showing a sugar tab, and it was interpreted to mean weeing out the sugar of your body. So we thought that was really primary, basic response, and that's why that raised higher arousal as compared to the others. But all the others were really around the 0, very close one to the other. And in the TV ads, again, very little differentiation, both actually slightly on the negative side, but very close one to the other. So very little variation there. And then if you look at the TV ads, again, on specific neuromarketing parameters, so the average valence, the average activation, average impact, they are very similar. So you really wouldn't be able to differentiate. And in the qual, we saw that one outperformed the other here. Clearly, there is no real difference between the two. And then when you look at the sort of the journal ads, if you really try to sort of look into how could neuromarketing differentiate these ads, what is different? So here you could make, okay, you could say the ad T4, which was the scenery and the off-road vehicle, okay, in terms of the average valence, that had 101, whereas the other one, the man, really had, again, a very close to 0, so had no reaction to it whatsoever. So you could say, okay, if you really try to look into the parameters, you could maybe see some differentiation. And then on the cognitive parameters, again, you know, your T4, the scenery outperforms the man. But then that's quite surprising, because in the qual findings we saw that both the T4 and the T8 were very memorable. They were both pretty much equally remembered. But here it looks like, you know, T4 was twice better recalled. So really you could say that there's a disconnect between your findings from your traditional qual and from your neuromarketing. So in the traditional qual, we could see they were clear winners. But in the neuromarketing, it's really when you try to seek for differences in the journal ads that you can actually say, okay, maybe there is a winner. With the TV adverts, you wouldn't even be able to say that they were so similar in the neuromarketing. And also, actually, if you look at the winning ads in the journal ads, the findings, again, when you really look at the different parameters of neuromarketing, the findings again disconnect, because in the qual we had 2 clear winners. But here, actually, the T4, okay, it's a winner, but the T8, actually, the man, is a total flop. It's completely 0. So the neuromarketing flop really failed to have any positive emotional valence or activation, and it was not stored in the long-term memory, but yet in the qual, it was said to be the most memorable ad together with the T4. You had, they claimed to have very close connection with this ad based on the me map. It was the closest connection, actually even better than the T4. Really good, strong adjectives came through, admiration, courage, pride, and also the message was really simple and clear-cut. This ad was saying to healthcare professionals, this is my patient who is happy, who is taking control over his illness with a simple once-daily treatment. So really clear message. So we really probably, based on the traditional qual, we would have recommended for this advertisement to be put forward. But in the neuromarketing, it has no emotional impact on an unconscious level. And then again, conversely, the T4, which the neuromarketing suggests is a superior advertisement. In the qual, the messages that were recalled, I mean, some of them were good messages about diabetes, this sort of a treatment helping to overcome the rough ride that is diabetes, but there were also lots of really unspecific messages. So lots of sort of healthcare professionals were saying, oh, it's a lovely Scottish scenery, I do like the Land Rovers, I love to go hiking, so nothing to do whatsoever with diabetes or diabetes treatment. So really sort of in terms of traditional qual, you probably wouldn't have put this message forward, but this is what the neuromarketing suggests you should go forward. we actually did challenge the company BitBrain about how do they explain the fact that the man that came so strongly in the traditional qual performed so badly in the neuromarketing, and they said it doesn't happen very often, can happen, and they couldn't really provide us an explanation, which was a bit frustrating, I have to say. So, but the TV adverts, okay, so you could really say that the neurotesting is like a black cloth actually against which you can actually assess the reactions to the TV ads. Like we said, in the traditional qual, one of the TV ads was a winner, but actually if you don't have a benchmark, it's quite difficult to sort of assess. So you could only compare these two advertisements and say, okay, one was better than the other, but you wouldn't know, relative to anything else, whether that was good or not. So in the qual, there was quite a strong positive reaction to the one ad, the T2, which was more the patients in their normal setting, getting on with their lives. The other one, the T1, that was more sort of the imaginary setting, that kind of, they were saying, okay, after 2 minutes, it gets really boring. They felt indifferent towards it. So again, based in the normal qual, you'd say, the one with the patients in their normal setting, you say, okay, let's go and put this advertisement forward. But actually in the neuromarketing, both of them were really pretty much zero and more in the negative in terms of activation. So what I was, we see there's a clear disconnect in terms of what you can show, sort of how the things perform in traditional qual versus neuromarketing. So what kind of sort of conclusion, what are the thoughts based on this experiment then? So it's really quite thought-provoking. So how much weight do you actually put on the unconscious processes measured by the neuromarketing versus the conscious in healthcare professionals' responses to advertising, especially when the differences are quite minimal and it's difficult to sort of assess their real-world significance. And also, so how do you decide what's important when you're assessing an advertisement? Is it the messages that it's conveying? Is it the sort of emotional response? Is it sort of the storage in long-term memory? What's the most important? An open question. So what we kind of felt that, neuromarketing has definitely some benefit based on our experiment as a sanity check. So for us as qualitative researchers, it definitely made us kind of really go back into the qual findings and look at them more in depth and sort of try and understand what was going on. And also, if you have two winners, okay, so it might actually help you choose the one winner if you're not too sure otherwise. And it does provide clarification in a crowded market where actually the emotional connection may be more important. And okay, if both of your TV adverts were weak, you could maybe go back to your client and say, actually, look, both of these are pretty bad, so you'd be better off going back to the drawing board and make an entirely new advertisement. So that's kind of, okay, a sanity check, some sort of insights to be gained. But it's still, it is quite cumbersome technology, and it's expensive. And as its benefits in real life have yet to be shown. I mean, if you look through sort of the articles published by neuromarketing, there's very little to say that actually the neuromarketing can increase your revenue of investment, can increase your sales. Only a couple of articles might have shown that. Although there is some suggestion that, when an ad performs well on the emotional parameters, then actually it could have some positive impact. But again, neuromarketing is just one element to measure the success of your advertising campaign. And also, you don't really know how important the different components are and what's kind of how this influence is felt. So if you don't have, you really need the sort of the practitioners who are science-based, but also have the marketing experience, the psychological experience. If you don't have the combination of that, it's quite difficult to actually say what your neuromarketing can really do. And again, also, like I said, it's quite cumbersome. So, you've got your EEG, you've got your ring, you've got your eye tracker. So you're tracking around Europe, doing sort of a qualitative market research in different countries, tracking the material all over. So it takes a lot of time from your research point of view, and also analyzing the results is not as straightforward as it could be. And also the long calibration we found during our experiment. Doing the 8 adverts, I think a calibration time was 20 minutes. So it's a lot of time in a 1-hour interview if your calibration is 20 minutes. So quite cumbersome again. And also we found that there's, at least with healthcare professionals, you need to tell them what you are going to do before. So otherwise, they might get upset about having to use an EEG. But I have to say, vast majority of our respondents loved it. In healthcare research, the doctors get quite bored of being shown the target product profile and all the standard stuff. So actually they love the experiments of trying something completely new and different. But then also, like I said, it is quite expensive. So we thought you could maybe charge 300 euros to your clients on top of your research to do this. But does the 3,000 euros really cover you're trekking around Europe and you're analyzing these results and all of that? Is that sort of sufficient to cover what you are spending, the time you are spending on this, plus, the purchase of the equipment and all of that? So it's really our kind of thoughts where the juries out there, can't really say to what extent it provides added value. Anybody here have used neuromarketing, have any experience? Yeah, and it would be interesting to at some point discuss and hear what your thoughts have been.